The year was 1889, and the town of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, lay nestled in the valley like a child cradled between mountains. To those who lived there, the valley was both comfort and cage. For above them loomed the South Fork Dam, a massive wall of earth holding back the waters of Lake Conmore. Most in the town lived ordinary lives: iron workers, mothers, school children, shopkeepers, and among them was a girl named Clara Whitmore, just 17, with hair as dark as the coal dust that often blew in from the rail yards, and a spirit brighter than the lamp-lit evenings of her home. Clara's father worked in the steel mill. Her mother kept a small garden, and Clara herself dreamed of becoming a schoolteacher. But dreams have little power against walls of water. The day the dam broke, it was the last day of May. Heavy rains had pounded the valley for days, and Clara noticed how the river, usually a lazy ribbon, now rushed brown and angry. People whispered that the dam was in danger, but such whispers had floated for years, dismissed with laughter and shrugged shoulders. That afternoon, Clara was in her bedroom, pressing wildflowers into a book, when the sound came low, distant, like thunder rolling from beneath the earth. She rushed to the window. The mountain shook, then the world tore open. The South Fork Dam had collapsed, releasing nearly 20 million tons of water. It came roaring down the valley like a monster awakened from centuries of sleep. Clara's last memory of that moment was the sound and impossible roar that drowned every scream, every prayer. She grabbed her locket, a tiny silver heart with her mother's portrait inside, and clutched it so tightly that the edges cut her palm. Then the house was swept away. Survival. When Clara woke, it was night. She lay on muddy ground, tangled in branches and broken timbers. The valley around her was unrecognizable, an ocean of wreckage. Fires burning where gas lines had burst, and voices crying out for help in the dark. Somehow, she was alive. She staggered through the debris, barefoot and shivering, calling for her mother, her father. She saw faces she recognized, some bleeding, some silent forever. She joined a cluster of survivors huddled round a fire. No one seemed to notice reproach, but she was too dazed to care. She simply sat, hugging her knees, listening to their weeping. The next morning, Clara began to search. She wandered through piles of ruined homes, overturned trains, uprooted trees. She asked everyone she met, "Have you seen my mother, my father, the Whitmores from Walnut Street?" But each person only stared through her or turned away. At first, Clara thought it was shock people were too numb to answer. But as days passed, she began to realize something stranger. When she reached out to touch a man's arm, her hand passed through him as though he were smoke. She froze, staring at her palm. It was pale, faintly luminous in the morning light. The truth unfolds. Clara tried again and again to speak to others, but her voice carried no weight. Children walked straight through her as they scavenged in the ruins. Rescuers passed without hearing her cries. At last, she wandered to the cemetery on the hillside, where the town had begun to bury its dead. Among the rows of hastily dug graves, she found a wooden marker that made her fall to her knees. Clara Whitmore, aged 17, her heart or what remained of it seemed to stop. She remembered the wall of water, the crushing timbers, the final darkness. She had not survived. She was nothing more than a shadow, a memory walking through the ruins of Johnstown, and yet she lingered, the endless walk years. Past, though Clara felt them only as drifting seasons. She remained in Johnstown as the town rebuilt itself from ashes. She watched new houses rise where old ones had fallen. Children laugh in streets that had once been rivers of death. No one ever saw her, save in flickers reflections in shop windows. A pale figure at the edge of photographs. A whisper in the wind on rainy nights. Sometimes survivors spoke of her, a girl with dark hair walking among the wreckage. But when I turned, she was gone. She asked me about her mother. I swear it. Her voice was like the rain. Clara never found peace. The flood had stolen her life, but it had also bound her to the valley, tethered to the waters that had drowned her. Each year when rains fell, she felt the surge of the river, the echo of the dam breaking, the roar that never ceased in her ears. The twist, and now, if you're listening closely, you might hear her too. Perhaps it is only the storm outside your window, the patter of rain on your roof. Perhaps it is just the creak of old timbers in the night. But if you ever walk the hills above Johnstown, when the sky is heavy and the river swollen, you may glimpse a girl standing alone, clutching a silver locket in her hand. She will look at you with eyes full of desperate hope, and she will ask in a trembling voice, "Have you seen my mother?" And before you can answer, she will fade back into the mist, back into the flood that never ends. For Clara Whitmore survived the Johnstown flood, only to discover she had never lived beyond it.